Welcome back to Pastor Plek's podcast. I'm so glad all of you are here as we're talking faith, culture, and everything in between. And with me in studio or on stage and in front of a live studio audience of, well, 0, I guess.
So sad.
Is Mrs. Catie Sas. We need to. We probably could hire people to come sit in the audience.
Oh, like on Instagram, how you can like buy bots as followers.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah,
but that's stupid. We shouldn't do that.
We shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
We could go get homeless people and just kind of sit them in here. We should go get them all. No.
I feel like that went like pretty far. That went a little. That escalated really fast.
Okay. Well, I mean that they might want to
just to have humans in the
but they would like it to be cool.
Oh, like when you go to a sitcom and
yeah,
it's like
and
a
then
listening
like instead
audience.
of canned laughter, you have like real laughter.
Oh, because we're actually funny.
We are. Well, we're going to be talking about something really serious today because Katie brought it up.
Can we? Okay, fine. Yes, I did bring it up, but I don't know that it's that serious.
It is very serious.
Okay.
Are you kidding me? All right. So I'm going to, in fact, it's life or death. That's what the Bible says.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to ask my question.
All right.
Like
a normal person?
A normal person would send in a question. Okay. So what are your interpretations of the rod verses in Proverbs?
Okay.
And do you think the Bible commands us to spank our children?
Can I read the Bible, the verse I think you're talking about?
Yeah.
All right. Do not withhold discipline from a child. If you strike him with a rod, he will not die. If you strike him with the rod, you will save his soul from Sheol. And Sheol is the place of the dead, just in case you're wondering. So when you read that, what do you think it means?
I think it means hitting your kids.
Yeah, okay, all right. So hitting is such a negative word.
Well, what do you think spanking is?
Very positive.
Okay. It's the same motion. But the
same motion not tied to emotion.
I want to dissect why I'm so confused by the difference between spanking and hitting.
That's
because growing up, like when people say, "Oh, don't spank out of anger," I don't know what that means.
Okay.
Like I understand the concept of like, okay, like don't spank when you're mad, but if I'm not mad anymore, why would I still want to spank my kid? Like, why would I still want to hit them?
Well, you don't just...
Like, I would only want to hit my kid if I'm pissed off.
No. Oh my God.
And so, because that's, like, no.
No, but I guess
because that's what I saw. Like, that's what...
Right. So
my parents were always pissed when they hit us. And when I say hit, I don't mean a pat on the bottom. Like I think that's what a lot of people think of spanking.
Well, what kind of spanking was it? Was it like a
okay.
Was it like a punch?
We were slapped in the head a lot whenever my parents were pissed.
Like one of these from the back of the head or like
no. Like hard. Like my dad hit me in the face so hard one time his Baylor ring bruised my forehead. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. Like when I need to know the difference because I don't want to think smacking Ava is like what God is telling me to do because I could never.
Definitely, it's not that. I can tell you, it's not that.
Or like in fourth or fifth grade, I was in grade school and I made my dad mad, and so he told me we lived in the country, so he told me to go get a switch.
Okay.
The switch, like the tree limb. So I go and I get one, and he only wanted us to get the ones that are like really flimsy, that wrap around your thigh.
Oh yeah.
So he like hits me with
Where did he hit you?
My thigh.
Okay.
It wraps around my thigh and makes my leg bleed. And I still had to go into our pea field and pick peas that morning.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I'm not saying, oh, my parents were abusive. Oh, blah, blah, blah. I'm because my dad was legitimately abused. His dad was an alcoholic, just was not raised in a great home. And then my mom experienced a lot of trauma growing up. And so they were parenting out of their lack of great parenting.
Yeah, okay, wow. I think
so I want to just dissect, like, if God is telling me to strike my child, I don't want to think that is hitting her in the head the way that I was hit in the head. Like, what does spanking in a way that honors God look like?
Okay, thank you for clarifying because... wow. I think when I hear that story, I'm like shocked.
Yeah. So
spank,
what does it even like? What
a
does it
swat
freaking
is probably
look
a better way to do it, or not way
Okay,
to
so
do, way to call it.
when you spank your boys, because y'all spank,
Yeah.
you're very open about it, and I'm not saying spanking is sinful. I'm trying to understand what it looks like.
So you don't do it when you're angry. So what does
Okay.
that even mean?
Right.
So let me help you. A child that isn't like rebellious is probably a robot.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So every child needs to be trained. Does that make sense?
Right.
Fair?
Yes.
Okay. So far so good. So
Yeah.
so you shouldn't be like, okay, so if a kid spills the milk, every kid spills milk.
Right.
Every kid pees themselves. Every kid, I mean, I don't know if you've had poop on the wall of your house yet, but every kid has those experiences,
Yes.
and it's just what you do. And so there shouldn't be any anger towards that at all. Now, I think when anger for me that I have to overcome is when my kid hits one of my other kids. Now I'm like, you just messed with my son.
Yeah.
Which, now granted, you're my son, but you messed with my other son. And that,
Right.
like when you kick him right in the groin or you punch him in the face, that's like,
Yeah,
that's
we're
out of bounds.
natural
And
born
so I have to
sinners.
go, so first I'm going to restrain you, right? But there shouldn't be emotion in it because, so when, so let's take the emotion out of it. Because of course your kids are going to hit each other. Of course your kids are going to do things that hurt themselves or put themselves in danger, and there's sort of an anger that rises up. But there has to be something that you calm down, and then you say, this is what I say, I love you too much to let you disobey. Daddy needs to help you. And so what I want to do is always associate rebellion with pain. So that when I'm not there, the children don't, they now have like this thing of like, if I do wrong, it hurts. And so it's like there's like a force field there that they can't quite see, but they can't go past that line. And now, but you're not drawing blood. It stings, but it doesn't bruise. Does that make sense? And you don't hit the face, you hit the bottom.
Can you explain to me the process at which you...
Okay, all right. Okay, so it goes like, okay, let's say, for example, let's go back. So you have a 9-month-old. I think that's when we started with Austin. All right, and he would touch the wall, okay? Or it wasn't the wall. It was, we had like a picture on the wall that he would touch. And probably there's two schools of thought. One, if your kid's that little, don't put anything in their path that they can touch.
Yeah, just move the picture.
Move the picture, okay? Then the other school of thought is train them, okay? So they can be trained, and it's just a matter of, are you willing to do the hard work? And so, because there's times when you're in a different thing, and you just need them to respond and obey your voice of don't touch that. Because, you go to a restaurant, you walk along the street, you do whatever, and I say, don't go there, don't do that. That should be obeyed. And so when it's like, hey, Austin, don't touch that, and he'd look at me, and I go, no, don't, shake my head, no, and then he would touch it was like something on the wall, and no, I'd give him a firm no, and then he'd do it again. Firm no, and he's still not obeying. And then you remove him from the location, no, and you get it, no. And then he goes back and he smiles at you now, and then he touches it, and that's when
because he thinks it's a game now.
Now he thinks it's a game, and
right.
then you do a little something on the hand, little swat on the hand, and then he thinks it's because it doesn't ever hurt because, and then he touches it again. Now he thinks you're doing like a high five, and you're like, no, and you've got to. And then we have glue. I learned this from another person at the church of glue sticks, not like a glue stick that is like
the long flimsy ones.
Hot, yeah, the hot glue gun, but you don't make it hot. It's just the little. It's like a rod, but
they're flimsy.
And then I give him a little on the bottom, and it stings. It stings. It's a stinging. It feels like it stings. And that's when he starts crying, and then Daddy loves you too much to let you disobey, and then I pick him up and hug him and say, Daddy loves you, but I love you too much to let you disobey. Now, even at 9 months, they can understand that I love them, and I'm not emotionally like angry. I'm like, oh gosh, it's a little like, okay, this is not working. You're not understanding. I need to associate more pain with this disobedience because you're not understanding that when Daddy says, don't touch that I want what's best for you. And so pain is a great tutor. Does that make sense?
And yeah, and you have a great relationship with your boys.
Right.
Well, they know.
I think I do.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, I think they know you love them, and
but you have to. I don't want to say you have to overdo it with how much you love them, but I don't think you can. I don't.
Do you apologize when you lose it?
Oh,
them?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
So, because there are times where,
we're human. I mean,
especially when they're hurting another child.
Yeah.
That's also your child or another child in general. It's like, and you can see in them that there's this like, I want to hurt. I want to, do something very destructive to this other kid. And you're just like, oh, I need to associate that this pain is really, like this rebellion is really bad. And I say, no, don't do that. They all know, don't hit each other. They all know that.
Right. Yeah.
But the reality is,
it's the self-control.
The self-control,
right.
Impulse control, because kids just go, man,
yeah,
you don't just drill each other all the time.
Well, I mean, when we're adults, our natural tendency is to smack somebody when we're pissed at them. But the self-control that we have to develop helps us from going to jail.
Right. Yes, that's very true. Do you think about hitting people all the
time? Not all the time, but I'm saying if there have been times where I'm like...
Have you ever hit Ryan, just like drilled him in the face?
No.
Okay, that's good.
No. I mean, because I was raised with 4 brothers, are there times where like my physical impulse is to like punch him in the arm?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there have been rare times where I'm like, oh my gosh, like why did I just try to like punch you in the arm? Like,
well, that's a very healthy, well, for boys anyway. Boys are physical. And
yes,
so,
and I hated it.
Yeah, right. And well, I have a house of all boys, and so one of the things we try, God willing, try to is whenever they're around girls, we teach them not to.
How to be gentle.
Yes, that's a girl. She can't. You don't just wrestle her to the ground, and But she hurt me, and it's like you have to learn how to. Yeah.
There's a way you treat girls.
It's very challenging to teach because there are 4 and our house is kind of like a dog pile. Yeah. All day long, and kind of the rule for us is go outside or go in upstairs, because the furniture in the living room is like the one that they're not allowed to wrestle on, which I wish I could say was effective in us keeping them off that.
But I will say about the whole punching in the arm thing, I've never wanted to do that when I was mad. Mm-hmm. Like, it was always just like, oh, we're goofing off or playing or like, and I just like, I would do with my brothers, I would just punch them in the arm because just as like a joke or just messing around. Yeah. But what I worry about are the times that I've wanted to hit Ava. Yeah. Okay, because that scares me because I hated being hit.
Okay, and I think this is a good, like, for you, and this is where, if there's a, what's the right word for that? If there's a tendency for you to go and strike Ava like maybe your father would have struck you, I'd say just, why don't you stay away from that completely? Yes. And then, so I don't think there's like, is it mandatory that you strike your kid? No.
Okay, good. That's what I was.
I think it's a general principle, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and there's a way that you would spank your child in a way that honors God.
Yes.
But God's not saying, oh, strike your kids when like they're being disobedient. He's saying, I think there's a way that you can handle a spank.
One of my favorite people, she was a mom and is a mom, and she would look for opportunities to spank. It would be really funny, kind of. Oh. Like she was just.
Is that healthy though?
Well, she was looking for times to correct her child and was sort of excited about it because she could instill in them discipline. So she's like,
or just feel in control.
Well, maybe, but I don't. So it's like you're like it's parenting 101. It's like you're gonna have to do it. You might as well get excited about it. So she was prepared for the happy heart of like, oh, sweetheart, we don't do that. Now, mommy I love you too much to let you disobey, and then it was done. They would cry, hug, boom. And so she was like, ready. And I was really sort of inspired by that. I don't know if I ever transitioned to a point where I was like really excited about like on the prowl for like weapons at the ready, lads.
So excited to hit my kids.
But if you understand it's saving your kid, like I focus on that part. It's like training them in righteousness is a little bit painful.
Yeah, and I can see that. I totally can see that. And I also can see and lean more towards this area is teaching them emotional intelligence and teaching them by modeling.
Okay. Now, how do you do that?
Well, whenever they are disobedient or whenever they're, I don't have a kid older than 2. So I can't really speak to when she's 5 or 6 because maybe when she's 5 or 6, I'll feel more, I'll be at a place where I can feel more comfortable spanking, but right now I don't.
So just for me, at about 5 is where I stop spanking.
Okay.
Because now I can talk to them.
Well, I mean, I can talk to Ava.
I know, but it's like, now that doesn't mean I haven't, but in general, it's like the last, like when we have, unless it's like unbelievable rebellion, I'm not going to spank at past 5.
Yeah, okay.
Because now I can talk to them. Now, again, I'm making up that number as if like I'm some child psychologist. It's not like there's not a...
That's just what has worked for y'all. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that there are a lot of things that work for families that maybe don't work for other families. Mm-hmm. And I think what really inspired me to look into this verse and into spanking and into the whole psychology behind a toddler brain, because the brain of a toddler is insane. They don't use their whole brain. Mm-hmm. Right. And so punishing them for something that they haven't learned how to control yet, I thought, oh, that doesn't make sense. Like if she's at 2, like at a year and a half when she started hitting, right? I would pop her on the hand because that's just what my natural tendency was. It's kind of what I was like, okay, well, this makes sense. If she is hitting, I need to pop her on the hand. Mm-hmm. And that made it worse. Okay. But what I learned, and this is, I'm not like you. I'm not a child psychologist. Mm-hmm. I just thought, okay, well, if this isn't working, what is a better alternative? And so when I modeled self-control, when I modeled gentleness with my hand and my voice, that made things 10 times better for us. Like throwing things, because that's what I saw as a child. I saw whenever we were being quote unquote bad, I saw my parents lose it, throw things, scream, hit us. And so that's my natural go-to. But I've learned that actually is not helpful in her learning how to have self-control, because she's seeing me have absolutely no self-control. Mm-hmm. And so if she's seeing me lash out and scream at her, then when she lashes out and screams at her cousin and grabs him by the shirt, then I go, that's what she saw me do to her. Mm-hmm. So, of course, when she gets mad that maybe Bear took a toy or maybe Bear's doing something, and when I see her scream at her and push him, then I'm like, okay, I modeled that for her.
Right. I mean, but you're not pushing your child.
I mean, I have before. It's not my proudest moment, but it was actually it was one of those moments where I realized, like, I need to do something. Right. Like, there is something in me that reaches this point of, like, I want to slap my 2-year-old. Okay. And I don't want to slap my 2-year-old. So I feel like for you, I think here it's a more deep-rooted issue than...
Yeah. So, but I do feel like you have a physical response. You have a physical response to anger. And so if you could train yourself to hug your child, mm-hmm. and I know that seems like a crazy thing, like to hug them and then hold them, say, I love you, I love you. Mm-hmm. Like if I love you is the first thing out of your mouth, it's not that you can't spank a child in anger after you say I love you, but it makes it like so I program that. So I love you. I hold you, hug you. We have to go, and I'll make it like we're going to go into a particular place to get spanked.
Okay.
So like, hey, we're going to go into daddy's office for a spanking. Now, when it's a 9-month-old, but a 2-year-old could understand that. Oh, it's now time. And so
they
now
can
the whole
associate
process,
daddy's office with
right? But the
Okay.
process of going is like more terrifying than the actual spank, because the spank
Right.
it doesn't hurt. I mean, it's like a.
Do you try to hurt them?
You want to sting, so yeah, you want to sting, but you don't want them to like have like a bleed or bruise or.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, and that's why I've had to kind of step back and go, okay, why do I have this? Because initially I had to step back and go, why do I have this physical response to hurt my kid when I've reached this point?
Yeah.
And
I think that's something worth sitting down and talking about.
well, and I bought books. I started doing more research on my childhood. I started reflecting a lot more, and I was like, oh, that's why.
Yeah. So I feel like for you, this is something that. Yeah.
I've decided to take spanking off the table right now.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Because I don't even want to make it an option.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a fair. I think for you, that's a fair.
Okay.
Like, I don't look at you and go like, now, Katie, you need to get it together and properly spank your child. I go, yep, smart move.
Okay, because that's where I was like, I don't want to be dishonoring God.
No.
I don't want to, like, if I'm going, okay, I need to get myself
Right.
in check.
Yeah.
I need to understand where my triggers are. I need to understand what is causing me to feel this way. I need to get myself under control because I'm the adult.
Yes.
And so if I can't model self-control and gentleness to her, then how is she going to learn
Right.
that?
Remember, because if you can't control yourself, because what you're trying to model is control, and
Yes.
this goes back to that it starts with the parent is in control.
Yes.
And if you've ever said, "Don't make me,"
Oh,
you're
yeah.
already out of control.
You're
Yeah,
I mean, that's that's a stupid thing to say.
A child can't make you do anything. I actually tell this to my older boys about their younger brothers. I think it was, one of them was like, he made me hit him. I'm like,
No.
nobody made you hit him.
You're in control of your own
You're
body.
in control of you. Now, I get it. If someone's attacking you, you need to hit him, get him off you.
Right.
That I totally get that. But at the same time, I'm like, we need to kind of recognize and understand that children are watching the adults for the way that we respond. So when they
Yes.
hurt one another, and I think this is probably something I do whenever they hurt each other. That's where my face gets like, I have to go. I love you. Now let me hold you right now. And like, we cannot hurt each other. And
Yeah.
I think that's the part that for me, because every other aspect of rebellion, I'm pretty, I don't want to say I'm unemotional, but I'm not going to get upset. It's just when they start hurting each other, that's where I emotionally start having a hard time not letting it get to me.
Yes, I have to say, and I feel like I've grown a lot in this area of going, okay, I'm at a point where I don't know that I have control over my what is impulses. I don't think I have control over my impulses right now, and I need to step away.
Right.
Like I need to calm down.
That's fine. And I think I think what you're saying, that's you want to model that for Ava, and I think that's a smart move. I think for Ava too, to watch you be calm and say we don't do that.
Yeah.
Is going to be, but this is where my friend that was a mom, she would look for, is like she prepared herself for the discipline. So Ava is going to.
Oh yeah.
So like if you're like, this is why you have a pre-planned response.
Yeah.
So when she disobeys, okay, phase 1, tell her no, firmly. Phase 2, remove her. Phase 3. This is where you escalation
Yeah.
of force so that you're
Yes.
not like.
There are stages of discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that was actually very helpful.
Yeah. I do want to say I feel like I said some things about my parents that like I don't want anyone, and I don't even know if they listen, honestly.
Of course they do.
I don't know. I don't think my dad knows how to work it, but I don't want anyone to think that they were like terrible parents. I think a lot of us parent out of our
Where we're at.
yes, and my parents never healed from a lot of the trauma that they faced, and so they parented out of that.
Right. And I think a lot of us are parenting out of that. So that's probably why if you're an emotional spanker, then don't spank.
Yeah.
I think that's a good. But if you can lovingly say, "I love you too much to let you disobey," we're gonna have to do a spank. And again, I think for my kids now, the thought of getting a spank and like, walking into daddy's office or sitting down and we're gonna do this, and they're like, that's like terrifying more than like the and it's over and they're like crying and then we hold and then we love each other and all that. But I feel like they then understand that what the thing that I did was wrong, and so you got to repeat what the action that they did, and make sure they understand that that's wrong. But anyway, there's a lot of different philosophies on that, and
Yeah.
because
there are a lot of child psychologists that say spanking your kids ruins them, but there are also a lot of child psychologists that say support your kid if they want to change their gender. So
right.
It's like,
and usually they're the same.
Yeah, you have to be so discerning when you're looking at worldly advice. And so that's where I was really confused, because a lot of worldly advice is one way, and then the Bible is the one way, and so I'm like,
so why?
wow.
And so the thing is interesting. Why is it listed so many times in the Proverbs about spanking your child with a rod? Like, why? And I think it's because I feel like every generation.
Why can't I strike you with a rod?
Okay, because there is a legal system involved. I appreciate that. Why don't you just hit anybody with a rod?
Yeah, because if we're allowed to hit our kids with a rod, then why can't I hit you with a rod?
Well, because I'm not your child. And so there isn't a part of love that's in that, right? I mean, so...
But they're smaller than you.
Exactly. So you want to train them when they're smaller so that you don't have to hit them. So for you to, little SWAT is you can control that. You can... Okay, so if you were going to hit me...
I'm just saying I'm not a stand-up citizen in society, and I was, striked a lot.
Right. So yeah, but that's why you don't, like, how old were you?
All ages.
Like 15?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
my mom.
I don't know if anyone does it at 15, but I feel like at that point you want to train them early, so that you don't have to
at
do it
15
later.
I don't know. It was kind of like we were like said, line up, hands on the wall, and my dad would line us up, smack us with his belt a
Your
couple
brothers
times.
are pretty huge too.
Oh yeah, but they didn't mess with my dad.
But they're bigger than your dad.
Yeah, but they knew they would get. I mean, it's like we knew that we would get an ear pull.
Ooh.
Like my dad grabbed my ponytail one time and yanked me somewhere. Like it's just like I'm saying, if the physical aspect is so important, then why is it that so many adults that were spanked aren't exactly standout citizens?
Yeah, I was spanked, but.
Okay.
But I don't know if I'm a standout citizen, but I do feel like it. Well,
That's
actually, you kind of are a standout citizen.
I mean,
tell me about all your
when
crimes.
when I tell Ava to listen the first time, do I listen the first time?
Well, no,
as an adult,
but you sort of. You're a functional human. It's not like you're on crack somewhere.
Yeah, but my emotional intelligence was developed as an adult. Like I did not know what managing your emotions looked like as a kid, as a teenager, as a young adult. It wasn't until I became a believer that I realized, oh, I don't know.
But you had a great
how to manage my emotions.
Yeah,
like,
and I'm not saying anything of what happened to you was okay. I don't even want to go down that road. But at least you understood grace. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's not the good way to go.
I mean,
I just feel like if you in a loving way, someone spanked you, you understood pain, you associated pain with rebellion early, then that is a big win. Mm-hmm. And so that later on, you're like, nah, I don't want to do the wrong thing. That hurts.
Yeah. Could you look back and remember any time that you disciplined your children? Like, could you think back and like, no, this is what happened. This is what I did. Mm-hmm. This is how I handled it. This is like, see, that's the thing. I think my parents had just blacked out. Like, I think they just had no, like, if I ask my dad, hey, do you remember that one time you hit me so hard, your Baylor ring bruised my forehead for a week? I was in middle school. Yeah. And like, he probably could not remember.
Right.
Like, that's what I'm saying. I think I am afraid of getting to that point where like I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just flailing about, grabbing Ava or slapping her or, whatever.
Yeah.
And I needed to make sure that I wasn't going to be in this sinful category of where, I'm spoiling her because I'm not spanking her, but I'm like, I don't even trust myself to spank her.
Well,
I don't even know what that looks like to do it in a healthy way.
Right, and I feel like, your past is so traumatic in that realm that I think, I don't want to say you get a pass, but man, I think it would be wise for you not to use anger as your primary tool in discipline. And so that's why if you have Ryan around, that'd be a better way to discipline.
Yes, and he's been really helpful in that.
And this is where both parents being around is really effective too, is that you don't leave discipline up to one person. I think
you and Adrian both are authoritative in your marriage. Yeah.
Yeah, we are. But at the same time, there's different times for different forms of discipline. Like, with one of our sons, we'll go, okay, what emotions are you feeling right now? I want you to, so one of the things that we did recently is I held my son, and he was sad or angry, and so he'd done some hitting, and I was like, okay, let me just hold you. I'm going to hold you, sat him in my lap, and I held him. I said, why don't you explain to me what you're feeling? And he kind of went through a litany of emotion. Crying, fearing, sad, laughing, crying. It's just all sorts of emotions. And I said, you can say whatever you want. I'm just going to hold you right now and just love you right through this moment. And it was really a special time and a sweet time. And I'm going to do that more often with him because he needs to process emotions because that's the type of child that he is that he's got a lot of emotion going on.
Yeah. And you want him to feel safe to feel that emotion with you.
And you're allowed to feel safe. You're allowed to have emotions. So what you're not allowed to do with your emotions is
lash out,
act out, explode, punch, hit, kick, all that.
We want to teach you how to have the self-control to refrain from that behavior.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Any other things on that?
No, I feel really good about it. I thought it was going to not be great, but
Yeah.
I thought you were going to be like, no, Katie, you're sinning if you don't spank your kid.
No. I feel like you're making the right call because there's a high sense of emotion, and so I'd rather you not spank than spank an emotion because that's going to create a problem. But if you can spank without emotion and do it in love, then that's great, which would be like the ultimate goal. But at first it's like, why don't you learn to discipline or like just to be around your child in a way where you're not getting angry?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that wraps it up. Hey, listen, if you got any questions, we'd love to hear from you at 737-231-0605 or go to pastorplek.com and let us know. Anything you want to talk about, we would love to engage it. And Katie, anything else you want to say?
No, this was great.
All right. Have an awesome week of worship.